See, so they buy a new ship for the UNP. But with the same old driver, some man they call Pandy. Because the first ship to go straight. This man steering like a BNK. 50,000 US disappear. Union and ball corruption. Next to this she house for ammunition. Stood on a call, Ross Maraj ball. Lawrence Maraj showed up from behind a wall. Pandy, the jail is waiting. Pandy, all your thieves enough. Corruption in USC, so everything that already. All your fire tree men just hold. So we abandon ship. We not staying on it. And very slow. Pandy no. Robbie say that you've got to go. The UNC is shipwreck and leaky. So they buy a new ship called the UNP. But with the same old driver, some man they call Pandy. Because the first ship to go straight. This man steering like a BNK. 50,000 US disappear. Union and ball corruption. Next to this she house for ammunition. Stood on a call, Ross Maraj ball. Lawrence Maraj showed up from behind a wall. Pandy, the jail is waiting. Pandy, all your thieves enough. Corruption in USC, so everything that already. All your fire tree men just hold. So we abandon ship. We not staying on it. And very slow. Pandy no. Robbie say that you've got to go. Let me remind every single quota down in Cuba, the incident with the ladder, the important deal padding and the airport scandal, pseudo-racist and teacher this criminal. He couldn't take and go to 800,000. Big apartment in Kensington, kitchen at the last, white tongue, where the money gone. Come now up front and talking tripe. When she go Aruka, she go understand what is real pipe. Pandy, the jail is waiting. Pandy, all you say enough. Corruption in UNC, so very sick that already. All your fire stream just go. So we abandon ship. We not staying on it. And very slow. Pandy no. Christmas Eve for you had to go. Since you in power, brother, is only bloodshed. Every day, 2 or 3 people dead. Prime ministers lived in the house peacefully. Nobody never killed nobody. Soon as you come with your big white head, mother send go Griffin and set up bloodshed. A loose cannon is at large. A dictator is in charge. For corruption, you go be charged. You're going to get a cell phone, so damn right. Pandy, the jail is waiting. Pandy, all you take enough. Corruption in USC, so everything that already. All your fire treatment just go. So we abandon ship. We not staying on it. And very slow. Pandy no. Robbie say that you've got to go. When Vince Lass and Griffith crossed the floor, UNC, they support us raw. No three men leave you because of corruption. You call them names like Chakat and Nimakram. Let me tell you something, Pandy. You always want to do things your way. Ramesh was your good friend. You bring in Gillette and duck them. I find you fast. You're out of class. 6 years now, you're playing up in your mother. Pandy.
It's the Western Rolling, the Croco!
So much for people out here catching the nenen. And they went and buy 2 brand new Mercedes Benz. Lying and saying how he didn't know about it. Bringing the blame on his son-in-law Griffith. If Griffith doing things and he hushing up him out, he must be doing other things he don't know about. I told him to go and drive in style. Was only for a short while. Put oil and gas, polish and things. I know he had to give it to Patrick Manning. And the jail is waiting. If you're happy for PNM, raise your hand. If you're happy for PNM, raise your hand. If you're happy for...
The apology. Contestant number 6. This is Croco.
Rollins the Croco. And he's going to be just as powerful with They Look For That. One of the tunes that has been turning on people in the tents and creating a bit of a controversy throughout the season. Western Rollins not afraid to sing these type of topics and really turn people on or off, as the case may be, depending on which side of the fence you're on. Croco, Western Rollins singing in position number 11. They Look For That.
November 7th, I see black man cry. No blood still running from black people's eye. But I remember when a sun rise, African rise. And I beg black man, please open your eyes. While I was singing and busting me liver string, black man asking me where Atlantic plays. Then they put their 14th finger on the shelf. So today, black man, you must blame yourself. But when I sing, they never listen where Coco say. Black man's mentality gone Spectrum and PSA. Big lyrics I sing in, they wouldn't listen to me. Black man telling black man, oh black man, come out to party. I remember when I sing Sham, we don't want it. Me say black brothers say Coco, you singing shit. So they say through my fault while you strike your heart. Black man, all you look for that. I wonder why black man always want that kickstart. Black man, all you look for that. A man on a charge for interfering. Black man, all you still go and vote for him. Black man, how on earth you could condone this? Your daughter might have to work in this man's office. Then imagine this sex silver-headed pest. 12 fingers under your daughter's dress. Me a saying that Patrick should have win, sir. But even Jim Baker would have been better. All the women who went begging the other day about this Mr. Way, all you have to say concerning this thing, all you're silent and talking peace. So the office girls must be at the mercy of this beast. He was charged, so whether it is false or true, I'm concerned because I have a daughter too. I'm talking from my heart, I'm telling you. Black man, all you look for that. Why on earth black man always want that kickstart? Black man, all you look for that. Tobago, I was really annoyed with you, but I realized all you get gets two. Who would have believed both of them with a side with Panday and give away Tobago's best holiday? Them two go and sit down on the wrong table and then look for the best for the old Tobago people. But all you cannot quarrel, all you cannot fret. That's what you ask for, that's the way you get. We still love Nelson and Calypso Rose. The world know we honestly recognize those. Like you're a great footballer with Aston Villa. We always show love and respect to that fella. But all you smile when Robbie married to Pandey. I hope all you understand where Satmarat say. If he thought I marry a black man, he drop ship. Black Tobago, all you look for that. Mighty Masquerade done and Ricky Jai start. Tobago, all you look for that. Remember slavery on the plantation? Master used to use a black man to beat black man. So when I hear 17, I got a pain. I say, oh God, black man go beat black man again. But black man give black man soup. But black man want harm. Black man intention is to pressure his own black man. He give them soup, they say he treat them like an outcast. So now black man takes more care. At Robinson on behalf of the African. With 2 seats first, you had the ball in your hand. I spoke to Leroy Clark and Capra Cambon. And up to now, them can understand where went on. You went and was knighted up in Africa. But to your black brother, you prove a traitor. If Abubakar return and the shooting start, attack, all you look for that. And if your daughter should cross the big man's path,
the managed man of Calypso, Weston Rollins, the Crow. Black man, all you look for that. I wonder why black man always want a kickstart. Hey, black man, all you look for that. When I'm preaching to you all you say, Dr. Hinds, you're talking shit. The faces of the massacre, the murder on the IC are black faces. The faces of mass murder are black faces. And when they're ready to file murder charges, is who they charge? Black man. When I'm preaching to you all, Dr. Hinds, you like talk too much race. He did it. He did it. The government faces of the mass murder of mainly Amerindian people are two black men. Two black men. And when they're ready to charge people for murder, 3 black men. What more you want to hear? What more you all want to see? Why black man always want to kickstart? They're beating you all down because of your race. It's all around you all. But just for a couple of penny. Just a couple of penny. Are you ready to sell your all soul? I hear the brother, as he was going into court, he said, we don't deserve this. Yes, brother, under normal circumstances, black people don't deserve what they're getting. And I will fight for those brothers. Fight for them. But black people, you all have compromised yourself. Some of you. It's emancipation. And you all couldn't hear it because the parliament didn't start. But we were in there. And I told Brother Edgil that he is a disgrace to black people. I told him. The cameras won't carry it. That on the eve of emancipation, he allows himself to go there and to lie on behalf of an Indian government. To lie. I told him that at the bottom of that ocean, the bones and the blood of millions of black people, they're there. And anybody, any race who should not lie to get anybody to go down there in a watery grave is black people. Yet, a black man has become the lying face of mass murder in Guyana. When we black people are the victims of mass murder. And I told them that you all murdered 400 black people and now over 100 Amerindian people. I tell them, black man, why you all always want to kickstart? Who the charge of murder? 3 black men. What more you all want to see in Guyana? You all think it's by accident that when they build the bridge and they want to show the shiny side of Guyana, you see Indian faces. When it's the dirty side, the murderous side of Guyana, black faces, black faces. And you all wouldn't learn You all will learn, rise up and wipe these people out. They're not good for you all. Well, anyhow, that time's a stark race. And some of my brother and sister leaders don't even talk about it too. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. I have Dr. Todd tonight and Paul Slow. I haven't seen Brother Paul here yet. Brother Slow going to be in shortly. Huh? I'm not seeing them. Okay, go ahead. All right, I think we got Brother Slow here with us. That man only look for that. I would not stop telling you all that. Guyana is a dangerous place for black people. I repeat what the brother said when they handcuff you and carrying in the jail. We don't deserve this. Well, of course, we don't deserve it. And if you don't deserve something, get rid of it. Don't compromise yourself with it. Not the brother who was charged. I'm talking about black people, some black people. That's why I told Edgil, he's a disgrace to black people. And I'm glad I was able to say that. The state has murdered over 100 people. And the person to lie about it, to become the face, is a black man. If anybody should not take part in mass murder, should not justify, should have nothing, tell Jack Dio and Ali, Lewana, you all go up in front. But no, the black man push himself in front. And then when the politicians should be held accountable, they pass the blame on to ordinary workers, working people. But who are the working people? 3 black men. It's not by accident. It's not by accident that those 3 men are not Portuguese. They're not Indian. It's not by accident. Black man only look for that. I ain't stop. I'm gonna stop. I love you all, so I wouldn't stop. I have guests tonight. I got to behave myself. I have brother Paul and brother Dexter Todd, and we are going to be talking in particular about the charges that were brought by the government. Of course, when we get in trouble with these things, we turn to Brother Paul Slow and Brother Dexter to tell us what time of day it is. And they're here. Let me bring them in. Good evening, Brother Paul. Good evening,
Good evening,
Dr.
Doc. Good evening. Good evening, Doc.
Good
Good evening to all the viewers.
And
Good evening.
it's
Good
unfortunate
evening,
that
Dr.
we.
Dexter.
Good evening, sir. It's always a pleasure to be on with you on any program.
Thank you.
I always sit as your student.
All right, all right.
And what you all may not know there in the audience, Dr. Todd used to be a policeman.
Yes.
Yes, he
Used
used to be a
police.
policeman.
Yes. And although Brother Paul is not a lawyer, is not a trained lawyer, he is what you call a people's lawyer, you know?
Yeah. I mean, no, but Doc, the correct term is barroom liar. We call them back in the day barroom liars.
Oh,
The liars, they're not liars, but policemen with knowledge in the barroom who would then defend and represent other members, their colleagues. So it's barroom liars.
backroom lawyers. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. All of you, please share the link because, of course, tonight is going to be very, very informative. Paul, let me start with you. As a policeman, and I always tell my audience what you always tell: you're a police. You don't condemn the police as an institution. You condemn those who violate the institution, who abuse the institution. You're a policeman. When you got the news that boat capsized, as a policeman, what started go through your mind?
Well, I received the news early this Sunday morning. That would have been Sunday, the 19th, I think it was. I received the news early in the morning. I got up and decided to check news, and I saw it. And the first thing came to my mind is about survivors. Because when they said that the boat capsized, I was thinking about the survivors. I was also thinking, because anyone who follows the travel in that area knows that boat normally has a lot of people on it, a lot of people, including children and women. And my thoughts went out to them. What happened to them? And wonder if the rescue operation was speedy enough to make sure that those persons were saved. That was my first thought.
You heard it there from Dr. Paul Slow, honorary doctorate here tonight. And Dr. Todd, the same question for you. When you got the news, you are a lawyer, and once a policeman, as a policeman, old police. Of course, Paul taught me that you get two types of old police.
Yes.
So you are both one type of old police and a lawyer. What went through your mind when you first got that news?
Thank you, Dr. Hines. I think I was, and I still am, very much traumatized by this incident. I think it is definitely not one that I have expected to see in my lifetime. And I know both of you, Dr. Hines and Mr. Slow, who are my seniors, this must be deeper because this is not something you have experienced at all in the lifetime of Guyana. I mean, we have had tragedies before, but never of this magnitude. And I think more and more as you know, you listen to the families and you listen to the survivors, you cannot just get your mind off of what would have been the last moments of those who perished. I mean, it is really sad, and I think it hit home more because you know some of our most vulnerable people perished. Many children, and babies. When you and I saw how some of them were lifted, you know, out of that water, and just shortly after, just buried in that manner. My heart continues to bleed for them. So I think a sense of real deep grief really got a hold of me, looking and experiencing this in my lifetime. And I can only imagine what the others are feeling, especially those who have lost an entire family.
An entire family. Gentlemen, you know, one of the first things you learn as a student of politics is that government was created to do things for people that they cannot do for themselves. I want to repeat that for this audience. Government, the idea of government that eventually became a reality, was that we needed an institution to do things for people that they cannot do for themselves. And that is why if you examine the constitution of any government, whether it be central government, local government, other forms of government, those constitutions always have a clause that one of the main functions of government is to look after the welfare of the people. Government do a lot of other things, but the welfare of the people. I want to go back, Paul, to the reason we created government, to do things for us that we can't do for ourselves. And the government then create institutions to carry out that functions. Institutions such as the police force, such as the army, such as the civil service. And so therefore, when disaster strikes, at the magnitude at which it struck us these last 2 weeks, ultimately, it is the government that has to take charge. It is the government that has to take responsibility. The buck stops at the government. And I think you all know where I'm going with this, because it looks as though this government is trying to get rid of its own responsibility as government. Individuals or families, when tragedy strike, they are not the primary stakeholders here. They are not the primary actors. The primary actor is the government. And so, Paul, I want you to do for us something that you are extremely good at doing. And that is to trace for us the footsteps of the government from the time that tragedy happened to now, and tell us whether those footsteps were marching in step with the responsibility of the institution of government. And my young brother, you, because you're young, you got more time to think about the question than Paul.
Well, first, Doc, let me say it would appear that they were indeed marching, but they were marching in slow time. They were doing slow marching at a very slow pace. Because when and let me say this, I have a background, apart from the regular police arrangement. When I was there in the operations, heading the operations department, we had regular meetings to deal with disasters, right? They were, at the time, it was the Prime Minister chaired those meetings. And coming out of that meetings, we had what we call a disaster preparedness plan to deal with disasters in the air, to deal with disasters on the sea, to deal with any kind of disaster. And responsibilities were allocated to the various agencies. For example, I could tell you that the police were responsible for any land disaster. And when we say land disaster, it sometimes included a disaster, because we recognize even though the disaster might occur in the air, it ends up on the land, right? So we had those things, and we had regular meetings, and we put together emergency responses. And not only put it together on paper, But then we had exercises, whether it was tabletop exercise, whether it was an exercise as the Army would call it, exercise without troops. But we went through the thing. We went through. And you can recall, many of you might recall years ago, you even had exercise simulating crashes and so on at the Jagan International Airport, where you had to respond in a certain way. And that was a requirement. I don't know if those things go on now. But when this, if you're to follow the steps as we try to trace it, we understand that this boat should have sailed around 3-something the Saturday afternoon. Due to some difficulty, they said apparently it was stuck, and it is believed that the reason why the boat was stuck at the wharf or the port in Georgetown was because of the load. It couldn't move off because the tide might have been a little low, and therefore it was on some bank. Some of the survivors have said that. So it did not actually move off until 4-something the afternoon. Now, once it set sail, then at some stage they encountered difficulties, and they understand that a signal was received at the control tower at exactly 11:01 p.m. They were very precise about that. Now, once that signal was received, there are certain things that have to be put in place immediately, right? And it is a bit disappointing that from what we are hearing, that the first set of people weren't rescued some 5-6 hours after. So it clearly showed that they were not prepared and mobilized for some type of disaster. They're not. And then we hear the talk about Jerry Govay, I think, he had to fly over and to see some distress flare and all of that. But the point is, if the boat was properly, the vessel was properly equipped, signals should have been sent, should have been emitting from the vessel so they could have pinpointed the exact location. But seems a lot of things went wrong. So eventually, all right, Sunday they started to rescue people and so on. And the most surprising thing to me is that the very Sunday, we learned that the pilot survived, the captain rather, the captain survived, and the first mate. And the same Sunday, this is a survivor, a man who obviously is traumatized. He's arrested. He is arrested. So no counseling for him as a survivor. He's arrested. And then, of course, they're telling us that he was checked. This is what Bishop Ejel is saying. Same Sunday, they came to announce that he was found to have been, his bloodstream had marijuana and all that. From the outset, it would appear as though after this thing happened, as you rightly pointed out, government is a government responsibility. The boat is owned by them. The people on the boat are employed by them, so they can't escape responsibility. But they try to shift the blame almost immediately. So the blame was that the captain and the next man was had marijuana in the that's the narrative that they wanted to send out there very early. And then to hear the bishop the very Sunday, I think it was, this man is definitive, very arrogantly definitive. 116 passengers and 17 crew members, 133. The man was look, and you know, it comes all back to my training, because my training would have told me that so early in this disaster, you can't come with them definitive figures and so on. You cannot be so definitive, because the thing is fluid, the thing is evolving. And so he was caught in that. And then when you tell one lie, you got to find yourself telling other lies to cover up the lie. And that is exactly what has happened.
That is exactly what has happened. Dr. Todd, let me bring you in here. You know, one of the things we always hear is the average Black person want to go study law, they want to go study sociology, they want to go study literature, and they want to go study politics. Now, they mustn't study them things, but they must go and study what other people studying and so on. And I'm deliberately, in my own way, I'm deliberately quoting that, Because I said at the beginning that when something like this happens, the government becomes the primary actor. But another primary actor is the person who interprets for the masses of people what the rules say, what the law say, because law is really a conflation of rules in a formal way. And so I want you to talk to us here as a lawyer. What went wrong? Because obviously, as Paul said, the violation seemed to have started before the ship left port. So here is where I want you, as a legal scholar, because you're not just a lawyer, you're a legal scholar. It's a rare species. Tell us where the violation of the law began, and then do as Paul did, walk us through how that violation, if you see it as a violation of the law, has continued to haunt this whole tragedy.
Dr. Hinds, I would wish to begin from the point to say very clearly that the MV Barima boat is over 80 years old. That's the first thing. So we are not dealing with a boat which is equipped and with all the modern facilities, equipment, etc., to deal with the eventuality of a mishap. It's a very old boat that for years the decision was taken to get this boat off the water. They use fancy term, my seniors, as seaworthiness. I am saying clearly, so that our viewers will understand, that the decision was taken, the recommendation was made to the government of Guyana. The PPPC government received recommendations from experts that this boat should be off the water tops onto the dry dock because it was a recipe for disaster. It is a policy directive, and that is how you cannot divorce the subject ministers and the government responsibility here. It was the government's decision executed through the subject minister that this boat is to operate. Whatever little repairs are to be done, whether it is adequate repairs, etc., it is to remain on the water tops. Now, this boat, in the eventuality that there would have been a failed engine, developing engine problem, government supplied on that boat a generator to be able, because the generator on the boat was not working. Government knew that this boat must make a 27 hours journey. Not a 10, not a 5, 27 hours journey out of Port Georgetown. And therefore, it is the government's policy. It is the government's regulations which says that the boat must be manned by a captain and a mate. And while the boat must be manned by a captain and a mate, there would be a shift system. So at the time of the sail and the unfortunate incident, the captain, who is charged with the capital offense of murder, was not in charge of the vessel. Now, I have heard ridiculous arguments, some which burns my ear, especially coming from the Attorney General, that the law says that the captain is the responsible for the boat. If you can't have it both ways. You can't want to rely on international law, international standards, but you yourself have set policies and regulations which would obviously break that protection or that international guidance in which a captain must be on board that vessel and be in charge of every single thing that is happening on that vessel. It is not the captain who decided that a shift system will operate. It is the government of Guyana. Then you cannot say if a man is not responsible and he has a time off. Imagine. And this is what the government does not want the people of Guyana to know. That within that 27-hour sail, there was a shift system which allowed the captain to go, take his rest, relax for over 6 hours without having any responsibility for that vessel. The captain gave a very clear guideline and understanding of what happened. That number one, during this incident, he was not in charge of the vessel. Number two, by the time he got out of his cabin and recognized that the boat had canted, he was the first person to have falling off of that boat. The first person. And he could have only been hearing screams, and in his screams, he would have been hearing the calls by the other members of the crew for help. Now, I want to walk for a minute you through the fact that government one knew that this boat was not operating at any standard level. I hear this big argument, and persons in the public domain are talking about this issue of weight, whether the boat was overloaded or whether the boat was not overloaded. There is absolutely on MV, the MV Marina boat, there is absolutely no method, system to test weight. None at all. No scale. No one has to record weight. There is a loading line. So you can have any amount of weight on this boat, but once it passes the loading line, once the goods or the cargo passes the loading line, the engineer or the captain will say stop. The captain doesn't have, and if you look at the system again, which is outlined by both MARAD and supported by policies by the subject minister of works, you would recognize that every single person with responsibility for loading, if there was a load which of course was taking down the boat, the only responsibility the captain has is to say, no, that can't go. Or move it on another side so it can be leveled. But he can't tell weight. So when you institute a charge of murder to say that the boat was overloaded, I will say one thing. Bring up the boat and bring up the evidence that it carried more weight than is prescribed by law. You cannot want people to be held accountable by law when you yourself do not set the law. I call on the Attorney General, talking a bundle of nonsense. I call on the Attorney General to present to this country what is the weight limit of the MV Barima boat. What is the weight limit? There is none. The captain worked for 4 years and he has never seen a document. He has never seen anything to indicate that this amount of weight must be taken by the boat. Had that been done, the next reasonable question to be asked would have been, how do we test? It therefore means that you have to now outfit this boat with more equipment to be able to tell us or to tell the captain what weight. You are charged 3 persons, holding them accountable for causing the death of many Guyanese people when you have not given them the tool. And that is why the government cannot divorce itself. You can't say because of the fact you just wake up one morning and you decide a tragedy has happened and you all of a sudden come up with some policy and you're saying I must be held by that policy, and then you want to use international standards. International standards is good. International law is good. The ISO standards are good. The IMO standards are good. Government might have signed on to it, but I am sure there is absolutely no way any international licensing body can come and would have licensed the MV Barima. That boat should has broken every single licensing authority, every single licensing regulation. That is not the responsibility of the staff who is compelled to work it. That is the responsibility of the government of Guyana. And that is the responsibility of the subject minister. That is the responsibility to be proactive. The likelihood that there is high winds, and this is some of the proactive nature we're talking about the government. You know, just the other day in Venezuela, there's earthquake, there is high wind. Countries are experiencing high wind, but you don't take into consideration that this boat is not equipped. It's not a modern boat. They brought in big party boats, and you see all the modern outfits of these boats. And you don't envy. Now you want to hold the people who operate that to the same standard as you want to hold the boat and the captain for this old perenge. This old perenge that you send sailing up the river, the Essequibo River, for 27 hours with our Guyanese people. Guyanese must be outraged.
Dr. Dexter Todd and Dr. Dexter Todd here. You all see why you all continue to and you all children to study law, yeah? Don't let people talk you all out of what is. If you come from where we come from, we're always up against laws and state that fighting us, and we can't get this kind of expertise to defend us. Send your all children to study law, and don't let people dictate for you all what you all must study. Now, you listen to Dr. Todd carefully. The state, the government is primarily responsible for a state boat traveling on the water. It's not the the captain. It's the government that is responsible. Now, let me go to you. Let me come to you, Paul, because I think only you could answer this question. At what point does an agent of the state, the captain and the crewmen, they were all agents of the state. As a policeman, you were an agent of the state. And we have dealt on this program here a lot with extrajudicial killing. At what point an agent of the state becomes responsible for actions in his or her own name and not in the name of the government and the state? You get me there, Paul?
Well, perhaps only in your private capacity. I guess only your private capacity. If you're on duty, then you're not in your private capacity. So the state is responsible. And as you use the analogy with a policeman is there. If he does anything whilst on duty, then the state is, the government is responsible. He's acting on behalf of the state. Whether he's acting correctly or incorrectly, the state has to bear the responsibility. And therefore, coming back to the MV Borimo, the captain and crew members were there. They were not there in their own capacity. They were there acting as agents of the Transport and Harbors Department, a department of the state. So therefore, when anything goes wrong, you cannot divorce the Transport and Harbors Department and the subject minister and the government from the tragedy. You just can't happen. These men were not there on their own jaunt, so to speak. They were on duty. They were on duty, and if anything happens, as I've said before, while they are there, anything untoward, as we saw happen, the government is responsible. You cannot, right? Let me understand this thing in management. In management, as you would know, Doc, we talk about delegation of authority. You delegate authority, but you retain responsibility. So even though the captain might have been authorized to sail the vessel and others would have been authorized to do things, the government remains responsible for the action or the operation of that vessel. You just can't. No matter how you twist it and turn it, you just can't. They just can't, as they are trying to do, separate themselves from the incident. It is not logical. You want to tell me, all right, who benefits in terms financially from this thing? The money going to the government. All the freight thing and the passenger fares is the government. So how come the government now is not responsible? The money wasn't going legally into the people's pocket. And I say legally because allegations are made about us as a cow that went on. And we are not talking about that because even with that, it is the government responsibility to us. Even with that, right? Because they have a responsibility to make sure that proper systems are in place. Not only write down something on paper, that is only part of it. We have to make sure that whatever is written is adhered to scrupulously. It is your responsibility.
Your responsibility. You know, gentlemen, let me editorialize here for a second. We have seen this government very eager to protect errant policemen involved in extrajudicial killing, to protect them as agents of the state. And now, these men who were running that boat, they are also agents of the state. But the state is very quick to kick them down. The state is not even waiting for the rest of the society to protest and so on. They're saying, you're guilty. So they're prepared to protect policemen gone berserk, but to kick people who operate in baskets that they give to fetch water. Because that's what happened. I don't mean to be insensitive, but the boat obviously was a basket given to these operators to fetch water. And they're prepared to throw those people to the wolves. Double standards. I just want to point it out. Paul, I'll come back to you. So The DPP advised that charges should be made against these three men. Talk to us about it, because you know the police better than all of us put together. The police now comes into play. Yes.
I had to listen carefully when you said DPP. I thought you said the PPP. So I thought you said that the PPP recommend charges, but then I thought myself.
You're on form.
Now let me say this.
Yes.
Because I've been mulling this all along. What would have happened? At some stage, very early in the game, and I've been saying this, the police, I have been urging them that very early you have to get statements from, starting with the survivors.
Yes.
You have to get statements from the survivors. I learned that they were, after arresting the captain, Egil and them talk about statement from the captain. If you arrest a person, that person has no obligation to give you any statement. Because, and then the question was asked, and I had to compliment Leroy Smith for asking that of the Prime Minister on Friday. When these men were arrested, the captain in particular, what offense did you put to them? What were you arresting them for? Right? I don't think that was ever answered. So the police would have started to take statement. I suspect they would have started initially with the survivors and then other people, maybe the people at the loading wharf, and you would have taken statements from them, right? Police also has a responsibility that once bodies were recovered, they have to make sure that those bodies were identified. That's police work, because that's the people who are investigating. You are going to make sure that the bodies are identified by the next of kin. You have statements from the next of kin too, because they don't just go and say, well, this body is so and so and so. You have to get a statement from them. Now, at some stage, when you collected all of those statements, right, a file, you prepare a file, and that file is taken to the Director of Public Prosecutions to peruse and to give guidance. It has been said, well, some people said that in the file, maybe there would have been a report. Somebody write a report, and that would have been sent to the Director of Public Prosecution. And the report is going to be usually written by the most senior person conducting the investigation, right? They'll write a report. It goes to the DPP. I am willing to bet, I am certain, that when the police wrote that report and took it to the DPP, they did not recommend the charge of murder. I suspect they may not have recommended any charge at all. They just put the statements together, put together a report that would have been taken to the DPP. The DPP said that having perused the file that was presented to her by the police, she decided that a charge of murder was the appropriate charge for those three men. That is the DPP's decision. And the DPP under Article 187 of the Constitution is the ultimate authority in criminal prosecutions. So there's not a question whether she asks the authority or not. She does. But the question is whether or not that is the appropriate charge in regards to the elements to successfully prosecute a charge of murder. And we learned that from basic training that murder, you have to have malice aforethought. That is it. I mean, there are certain subtleties that we're not going to necessarily think now, but you have to have malice. You have to set out to kill or to cause grievous bodily harm, and then the question of murder. So, as we said, and Dr. Todd will bear me out here, you have to have two main elements, what we call the actus reus, the guilty act, and then you have to have the most important part is the mental element, the mens rea. You have to have that intention. So the question is asked, if you're saying that there's the act, yeah, the boat went down, so you might want to say that there's the act. Where is the mens rea? Where is it that these men who are charged with murder intended? You're saying that when they set sail from Georgetown Port, they set out intended to kill those people? And if they did not intend at that time, you're saying that during the course of this journey, before this incident, they formed the intention, because don't forget, they are charged jointly. They are charged jointly. So basically, you're saying that they acted together to commit this this heinous act. And let me say this, because I said it today on my program. I recall there was a matter some years ago, around 2006, I think. Henry Green was the commissioner, perhaps sometime shortly thereafter. And an allegation of rape was made against him. And an investigation was done with the aid of some people from Jamaica came to assist in that investigation because they wanted transparency. And a file was sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions. And before the Director of Public Prosecutions, the same Director of Public Prosecutions advised the police that Green should be charged with rape. Green preempted everything and moved to the High Court. And I think it was Ian Chan. Ian Chan asked the Director of Public Prosecutions to justify our decision to charge Green with rape. Because you know what he said? And I'm sure Dexter can put the people into the work. You know what Ian Chan told the DPP? The fact that you might say the file presented prima facie evidence is not sufficient for you to charge. The question must be whether there is sufficient evidence, reasonable evidence to gain a conviction. That is what Ian Chan said. And therefore, he ordered that the matter should be discontinued. Again, in this instant matter, you are charging with murder. You're charging with murder. All right. Where are you going to get this conviction from? Where are you going to prove the mental element? The act is perhaps easier to prove, but where are you going to prove that these men, when they set out, basically you're saying they set out on a suicide pact? Because remember, they are survivors, and only by the mercies of God that they survive. So basically you're talking about a suicide arrangement where they deliberately decided that they're going to sink this boat and survive. But this thing is so ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And contrary to what the Attorney General said last night, nobody is saying that maybe action should not be taken. Nobody is saying that. Nobody is saying that. What people are saying is whatever action is now being taken is premature. You announced that you are putting together a commission of inquiry to inquire into this matter. Why rush to charge? Why rush to charge? And I believe, and that is rhetorical, because I believe why they rush to charge is to prevent these persons from main witnesses. These are key witnesses. The only two surviving crew members on that boat, the only two surviving crew members are before the court charged with murder. So therefore, you're shutting them up. You don't want them to go to this this commission of inquiry, because I know any good attorney, even if they're asked to go, or even they're summoned to go to the commission of inquiry, can advise them not to say anything. That is a constitutional right, not to say anything. So they really don't want to get to the bottom of this. And I said this before I take my leave at this juncture. You're charging with murder. You have already done so. They are charged with murder. They have implied that the boat was overloaded, because that's the only reason why they would have charged the goods superintendent. The goods superintendent was not on the boat. So you can't say he's responsible for sailing it into this wave. He was not on the boat. He was responsible for loading. So if you're charging him with murder, you are implying, right, that the boat would have been overloaded. Now, where is the evidence? The evidence below the sea. And you're saying that you're not going to bring it up. You're not going to bring up this evidence that is key evidence. The wreckage is key and crucial evidence in this matter. I don't know where these people are, their legal training and all of that. And maybe it's not legal training, it's just the political training. It's the political leaning. Yes. Right? It's the political leaning, because these things make absolutely no legal sense. First of all, Dexter, I got to tell you, last night, I had a good laugh when you said that the police legal advisor, Manuel Moore, in reading out the names of the victim, the man called out the 72 names, right? And then said, others are known. The people are charged. Jesus, where are we? The people are charged with 72 counts of murder and murder of others who are unknown. So I guess the unknown would be the 5 people they say that have not been identified, as well as an unknown amount or unknown know number of persons who perished, because I said repeatedly, and I'm repeating it here, and I want anyone to come and debunk this. If you did not know how many persons were on the vessel, you cannot know how many are missing. That is basic, simple common sense. They don't know how many persons were on the vessel. Agile told us initially 116 passengers and 17 crew, which is 133. And then since then, the figure changing. So they don't know. You don't have a proper manifest. You don't know how many persons were on the boat, because people will tell you that even the little manifest they have from people buying ticket and maybe booking online and so on, people just walk onto the boat, pay money and walk onto the boat. So they are not listed in any manifest. So if you have people like those on the boat, how do you account for them? I mean, if the people, and they again admitted that when they rescued some of the people were rescued, then they discovered those persons, 32 they said initially, were not on the manifest. And then when bodies were recovered and identified, they told us that some of the persons were killed, who died and were identified, were not on the manifest. So it's according to the talk, it's a hell of a hobble. They don't understand, they don't know what is going on, and all what they're trying to do is to deflect and to deflect and to deflect. That is what they're doing all the time, and that is why these 3 men are charged with murder. Again, let me emphasize, they are charged with murder, not negligent homicide or anything, manslaughter or anything. They are charged with the capital offense of murder. Let that sink in.
Dr. Todd, there's a lot for you to really comment here. Thank you very much, Paul, for walking us through the intricacies of this thing. You know, I commend our people for using social media as a form of education, as a form of information gathering. But we also have to be very careful about how we dissect and analyze some of these phenomena, because we could find ourselves not intending to dance to the narrative of the government, but end up there. And I see a lot of our people get tangled in that. Well, the men were singing, yeah, at least they should be charged, and so on. That is why we have exports. That's why you all send me to school. That's why you all send Paul to all them big institutions. Not just, he wasn't just a traffic policeman, he was a student of policing. And Dr. Todd, who was a police, has gone on to become a student of the law. Because there are things that these professionals who study this thing can do, is that you just think, if I am a schoolmaster, a headmaster, and the school building is shaky, and one day the building collapses, and God forbid something happened to the students, then the headmistress and headmaster, based on this methodology, that if the headmistress or headmaster will be charged for murder. You see what they're doing? And the logic is taking them there. Dr. Todd, there's a commission of inquiry, as Paul said. So the issue of premature charges comes in. There is the issue of what charge. If at the end of the day the commission says so, what do you charge these men for? Is murder the appropriate charge? And thirdly, are these political charges rather than charges that are consistent with the law? Because basically what I hear from you and Brother Paul here tonight is that the PPP is turning the law into an ass. Now, sometimes the law behaves like an ass on its own. But in this instance, it seems to me that the police is turning the law into a political ass. So the law as political ass, the law as premature action, and the law has been confused as to whether crime was committed, and if so, what kind of crime is committed. Talk to me. Dr. Todd, you might be muted.
Thank you.
Yes.
You know, Dr. Hines, we as Guyanese have accepted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
We have accepted mediocrity so much in this country. As a nation, we remain as a broken, battered set of people that we don't even recognize no more when we are being silenced. Now, and I am using that in a general sense to say we have not even, and we have failed as a country to even hold our judicial system and officers to the highest standard. We have failed to hold our police force, which is the only or the primary law enforcement agency in this country, to high standards. So we accept the level of mediocrity, and we say to ourselves, we quickly fall in a bracket to say, well, it is the captain who is responsible. So, murder. Mr. Shaw went through very correctly on the side of the law to identify that if you are going to charge with murder, you must see from the preliminary stages, by reviewing your statements, the evidence which will lead you to institute that. You are saying that these three men acted in concert. They acted jointly. They held one mind. They held one intention. And that intention was to kill or to cause grievously bodily harm to the people. So that even if you go down the line of introducing another element, calling act or omission, that by virtue of them failing to do something, it caused the death of persons, then rightly so, all persons and all the case laws have gone down the line to say manslaughter. Now, the men, when they were held in custody, the offense which was put to them is that offense of manslaughter. So in the books, in the police record, it is recorded that they were arrested and an allegation of manslaughter was put to them, which they all denied. Now, you move to a case, and I have explained this on two occasions, that in evidence, there is something called, when you're dealing with witnesses, competent witnesses and compellable witnesses. They are all competent witnesses, but by virtue of the fact that you have instituted charges against them, and they are not or should not say anything because they must be able to wait until they have cleared their names, they cannot be compellable witness under no circumstances. Now, these, as Mr. So rightfully identified, these are two primary persons who at one point in time would have been in charge for the operations of that vessel, to speak to the commission. But you have silenced them. There is another principle in law that all parties must have considered. Latin maxim, sub judice, meaning that if a matter is before a court, as it is now, a charge of murder is against 3 persons, you cannot interrogate their conduct at another forum. No law permits that. And the commissioners, which I rather suspect will not evade or escape the mind of the legal team, that the commission can potentially be stopped by law from examining and publicizing anything which touches and concerns the men who are having been charged for murder, because there is a competent jurisdiction which is examining their conduct, which is examining the acts, which is examining on an evidential basis the circumstances surrounding the incident. So I disagree on all principles of law with the Director of Public Prosecutions, who has professed that these examinations can be done on a parallel basis. Cannot. It means, therefore, the commission may very well have to review and identify the terms of their examination, which will not touch and concern liability at all. Now, if the commission is allowed to do that, invariably, the government is setting a commission to come to a conclusion that no one sitting in government was negligent, and negligent to the point of criminally liable. No one. And that is why this is a calculated approach by the government of Guyana to control not only the narrative, but to control the potential findings of a commission of inquiry. Because there are going to be parameters in which they cannot go over. Because you cannot fight and contest another jurisdiction like a core competent court of law. Then you can't be examining and calling all sides of witnesses publicly to talk, which can have a negative publicity, which can affect a jury trial if the case gets that far. So there are potential dangers legally, which this government, being properly advised, ought to have contemplated that this is not only a premature act to institute charges, it is also affecting the outcome, the likely outcome of a commission of inquiry. You can't only look by regulation, because if you are going down the line, and it is not something that I am fathoming, I am making up in my head. It is part of the brief facts of the prosecutor, which outlines that they would have failed to do certain things. Then if you're going to go down that line, then you actually are going to be able, you have to establish the issue of regulations. What is it that they failed to do? Then if you're going to say what is it they failed to do, who is the people to come and say whether they failed to do it or not? When they are the only people, when the boat has a two-deck and passengers are likely on the bottom floor, and the crew is on the top floor, no passenger can come and say what is happening on the top floor unless they were in restricted area. So when you look at it, you're not making any attempt to bring up the evidence as you want to talk about weight and you want to go to a commission of inquiry. You hurriedly charged and instituted a bad charge, a premature charge, in which the investigations are incomplete, and the prosecutor proudly informed the court. So the director of public prosecution did not even have the benefit of looking at the totality of the potential evidence or evidence in this matter. But yet still you hurry to charge the people. And you hurry to charge the people only on the basis that you believe that this should be the charge. So when you look at it, and I'm telling you, Dr. Hinds, you see, Monday coming, when they are going, because I made sure I articulated very strongly, and I was able to persuade the court that there must be preliminary disclosure in this matter. And the court ordered that Monday, the 3rd of August, that preliminary disclosures must be made. I will make public every single evidence, potential evidence, or not even evidence, the statements that a director of public prosecution's office looked at to say go ahead and charge. I will identify it. And I will say, how is it we're all have been very sensible Guyanese watching what is playing out here. How can you charge? How can you charge? It is a wrong charge. It is a bad charge. You are not even cooperating. You are more putting the men in a state of depression and psychological trauma. You don't want the truth. It makes me wonder, why is it that government does not want the truth in this matter? I am still trying to find that out.
Dr. Dexter Todd here, and you all heard it here. You all heard what Dr. Todd said. The Commission of Inquiry is not to get to the truth about what happened. It's a Commission of Inquiry that is set up to clear the name of the government. And Dr. Todd, you and I were at the Arthur Chung Center on Monday, where the National Assembly was called insensitively. And we demonstrated. But we got a chance to look our colleagues on the PPP side in their faces and to observe their body language. And I think you will agree with me that you saw arrogance, but you also saw some scared people there. You saw some confused people there. You saw some cunning people there. And so all those emotions are playing themselves out there. And the one thing that has come out is that they're going to fight this thing to death to make sure. It's very clear. They're going to fight this thing to death to make sure that their names are cleared as individual and collective actors of the government. I think you will agree with me that we saw there, we would be dishonest to say that we didn't see a sense of righteous sympathy for what has happened. I saw some of that, but I saw the arrogance. I saw the cunningness. And I saw that PPP thing, that we're not giving an inch. And we're going to fight this thing down to the end. Am I out of place there, Dr. Todd? You're muted.
Definitely not. We all saw and witnessed, I would call it, the pomposity of these individuals, of the government. We saw it. We saw clearly they're not sincerely interested in healing of this nation while we all mourn. And there is nothing that they can come to the floor to say that the opposition did not reach out a friendly hand to offer all resources, all support, so that we can be able to arrest this situation and deal with this tragedy. But we saw it. Dr. Hines and Mr. Slow, we saw it when we turned up there on the Sunday at the Guyana. The gates were open, and as soon as the opposition members came to the Guyana to enter the gates were shut. The police all gathered by the gates and directed that we not enter. We saw that one Win MP was already in the Guyana, sitting there, and in an attempt to get her out of the Guyana, someone of the PPP poured a glass of water on her, poured the cold water on her to get up and get out. That is a lesson. That is a lesson how they see us. That is a lesson. They think that they're dealing with dogs. They think that they are the ones who are dealing this country, and that is why I say we sense and we have seen the level of pomposity of this government. They're pompous. They're powerful. Even in the face of this tragedy, they demonstrated arrogance, ignorance, right through. We saw when we get to Essequibo, the minister just passed and saw that our brother Sherrod Duncan was attempting to look at all the different areas so that there can be accurate information coming to our people. Lock him up. Confiscated the drone. I had to leave. I was in a court matter. I had to leave all the way in Georgetown. Hired a boat to get to the Essequibo. And I loudly declared on the phone as the other MP held it, well, I am coming. And I demonstrated if this is what they want, it is not going to go down easy. Were there to help. Not once. Not once. All they want, everything is go back to normal, man. 3 days of mourning. 3 days of mourning, 3 days of mourning, now go back to your normal life. Go back to your normal life. You talk about the arrogance. You talk about the uncaring behavior and posture of this government. Look, they give, and it's not across the board. Some of the people who they perceive not to be their supporters, because I have evidence to show that everyone was not treated in the same way. We had one woman who lost her child, her son, who was the breadwinner of the family. She is sick. And they told her the body is at the parlor. And they're only giving her 300,000 Guyana dollars. But the parlor is charging her $340,000 to do the cremation. Then they made an arrangement with the parlor And they told the parlor, we are not paying for the service. So if they think they want to come and sing and clap and give eulogy, how the person was good and so on, they have to pay their own money. So the parlor told her that she has to pay 60,000 Guyana dollars per hour if she would like to have a service. Then she pleaded with the parlor. The parlor said, listen, we were given a particular date that the cremation must be done. So it must be Monday. She is saying, well, he was the only family member I have in Guyana. I am sickly. Some of them said that they will spend their own money and they will come in. I'm begging you for 2 more days. They said no. They said no. They will have, you could probably let them look at the ashes, but no. That woman couldn't walk properly, my seniors. And the only way the car was taking her home, the only way she stopped at my office. She couldn't even walk into the building. She sat right outside my office at the gate crying. When I heard the news, I went out to her. I said, what is happening? I could not believe that was a mother, or that is a mother who's mourning the loss of her child in this tragedy. And that is the treatment she's getting. I had to put her in my car because I was leaving for a meeting at Congress Place. I had to put her in the car and call the Congress Place, organize and activate our social services group immediately to take her back to the parlor. They took her back to the parlor, and of course, you know, they let the parlor have it. But immediately it was rectified. And she was given some form of support, not only. And today I'm hearing that they put everything together to be able to assist her in whatever other expenses. But yet still, this government moves around and makes it look that they are working with the people and they're caring about the people and that they will work with them through this very, very dark period in their life. No, it's all talks. It's all talks. So Dr. Hines, my senior, that attitude that we witnessed in the parliament, I didn't expect anything better, because the evidence is there to show that they don't really care about people. They might express care for 1 and 2 persons where they believe that their mass support comes from. So they might put on a show. But let me tell you something. In their heart, they see it. Okay, that happened. Let's move on. But we are not going to see Guyana that way again. We are not going to see our Guyanese suffering again like this. And so I support the call that we're standing up to this. I support it.
Paul, you know, I've heard all the interpretations. Dr. Hines is a breakdown of morals. Dr. Hines, God, gone pan holiday. Dr. Hines, these people are engaged in swapping, in blood sucking. Dr. Hines is a breakdown of law and order. It seems as though every other day there is something that reaches crisis level. Adriana Young, that story is not even gone yet. And we are in here dealing with another incident of mass proportions. You, I am sure, at your church days, is it a breakdown of law and order along with a breakdown of morals, along with a breakdown of governance itself? Or is it one of those or 2 of those? Help me, my brother.
All of those, doctor. All of those. All. You have, and I comment on it frequently, right? You have lawlessness all around. Lawlessness in the government. You have lawlessness in almost every facet of life. Look what's going on the roads. Chaos on the road. People driving anyhow. People walking anyhow. It's a breakdown in discipline in the society. And I have said repeatedly, you cannot divorce that, you cannot separate that from what is going on by the people who we put there to lead, all this allegation of corruption and all sort of thing, this thing where people can do whatever they want and get away with it. Minister's son take the government vehicle, drive it, crash it into some canal, nothing happens. Minister's son accused of causing death by dangerous driving, file sent for and docked, nothing. So it's all around, it's in every area. And because it is in every area and you have people who there in government that don't know how to govern, that is a part of it. Look at again, coming back to the traffic thing, which is there to me. I perform the functions of traffic officer. We call it traffic chief on 2 separate occasions. And therefore, traffic is there to me. You have the president making all kinds of statements in relation to traffic. Since December 9, 2025, president came out with statement to say that they have been able to identify all the persons who have acquired the drivers that license illegally. What has happened? Nothing. Months ago, the president came out again with the same thing, said they have identified 1,600 persons and they're going to write them letters for them to explain. I mean, the thing is laughable. The thing is laughable. You have identified persons who have broken the law, and the president, no less, is telling us that they're gonna write them for them to explain how they broke the law. It's corruption and corruption all around. It's all around. So the breakdown that we see, if you look on social media, almost every week you see fighting with schoolgirls and schoolboys, fighting. We know when I went to school, you had the differences. It used to be settled on Friday, an organized exchange, and then somebody come there and nobody want to show the first blow. So some wicked man fire burn me on, and whoever
fire burn me on.
Yes, and whoever hit it got to show the first blow. That was it. But
friendly fighting.
Look what goes on when they have raids in the schools. When they have raids in the schools, you find all sort of implements, scissors, you find tie guns. Why would the children be going to school with those things? They're doing tailoring, they're not seamstress, right? It is a breakdown of morals, it's a breakdown of law and order, and they don't want to admit it. They don't want to remedy it because they benefit from that. So that when, for example, the same thing that I said about the minister's son, if you had a society that is governed by the rule of law, the minister's son would not have been able to drive a government vehicle into a trench and get away scot-free. But they want this type of arrangement. So when something like that happens, you can call somebody and tell them, say, look, cover this thing down for me. And you get that. You have so many cases. You refer to the one, Dr. Todd referred to the one in Essequibo, Sheriff Duncan, where ministers are giving police illegal orders and they are carrying it out. I saw Monday, when it was Parliament, Monday at Parliament, police stopping parliamentarians from going in and said they can't go with picket and that. There's not police duty. Dr. Todd talk about Sunday at the Guyana, where policemen at the gate to stop people from going. That is not police function. That is not police function, but that is what you have. You had a case at the stadium where the fireman reversing a truck, and the truck came into contact with a car that is assigned to the minister, Minister Ben, right? Had him locked up. See police manhandling a fireman in uniform, trying to lock up. When no offense was committed, absolutely no offense, because even if the fire engine struck the car as it did, the place is not a road, so you can't charge even no traffic offense. But that is what you have. That is what you have.
Paul, God, I mean, you probably were prevented from becoming commissioner of police because you were given orders by none other than the head of state, and you said, not me. What is it that is different from your worldview? What is it different? What is it different between your worldview that compels you to act in that way and the worldview of some of our sons and daughters who are acting the other way?
It's about knowledge. No, you have to know your work. As we say, you know your onions, you know the law, and therefore when anyone comes to tell you, regardless of who that person is, whether the president or not, could come to tell you to do something which you know is unlawful, you have to tell, I mean, you're not going to be disrespectful. You have to tell them in a very polite way, let them know that that is not going to happen. And I did that with Jagyu. I told him that. And then we know what I did that with Gadrach too. Very politely told him, say, well, look, the firearm could not be returned. And if at this stage, the investigation had not reached that stage, and what they're going to try to bully you, what they don't know, I am not going to be bullied because I knew that I had the law on my side. I was perfectly correct. The problem that you have now, you have people in positions, including the very senior positions. As we say, they don't know, they ace from the ass, they don't know. So whatever they're told to do, they do. And one of the things too, they come to recognize that that is the way, that is a means by which they're going to be recognized and promoted, right? They recognize that. You break the law and you're going to be rewarded. I like to use the example of the officers in charge of Region 1, Christian Dat Ramana, right? The man arrests a lawyer because she advised her client that he should not sign a statement. He arrested her, right? They sued, and Mr. Mika Clark sued and got judgment against the state. The man is promoted. The man is promoted. So what do you expect? What do you expect? The man is promoted. You have so many other cases where people do the gods and they are promoted. So therefore, there's no incentive to follow the straight and narrow. Conversely, you have people who are following the straight and narrow and are denied promotion. That is the story. That is
Dr. Todd, let me ask you to put on your partisan hat here. You know, my students always, they ask me, Dr. Hines, why, what is it about, black teachers? You all are teaching politics and then you slip into John Coltrane and Bob Marley and then you slip from that and you go on to poetry and so on. What is it? And I have to explain that we have always been compelled to operate at different levels. And here tonight, I mean, you, the policeman, the lawyer, the teacher, I want you now to, as the activist, tell us, we've seen the APNU very active, along with WIN and even the Forward Guyana movement, but I will leave it for them when they come on the show to talk about their thing. What is the message of the APNU? You all have been out there as we go forward with this issue, because we heard Nandla last night, and I'm going to deal with him eventually, said that we were gyrating in the National Assembly, and we were beating drums. We didn't have any drum there, but you hear what the man said? We were gyrating, and we were beating drums. He's speaking to the African, and he's deriding the African. We walk with rhythm. We talk with rhythm. We ain't gonna get thing to dance. We were demonstrating, and if we demonstrate with rhythm, God bless me with it. But what the man is saying, that we were being lawless, and he's invoking the drum, which is sacred. But anyhow, I gonna deal with that on another program. But so we saw the demonstration in Parliament. We saw demonstrations also outside of Parliament. You all are, calling for the ministers to go as we move forward in the next couple of days, talk to our people about how we are moving. Yes, you have to unmute, Dr. Todd. Be not. Dr. Todd? We're not sure whether he's hearing us.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Hines. Dr. Hines, I believe our position is very, very clear. And we support every right-thinking Guyanese who hold the same view that the government is responsible for this tragedy. And we will not support government attempting to have scapegoats or persons to throw the blame on. The murder is a wrong charge. And we are saying that it is the government's conduct and actions which has caused this tragedy. We are saying that this murder charge, which has been thrown upon these Guyanese persons, we are saying, all Guyanese, your eyes must be open. I know, Dr. Hines, you have a lot of the old slogans and jargons and to really let the people know that you got to open your eyes and see that this is a government that is prepared to throw you under the bus when anything goes wrong. You better start opening your eyes now. Some people are fearful. Oh, I'm securing. I want to secure my job, and I gotta feed my family. Listen, it's better you fight them for standing up. And if they try to victimize you, you fight them on that, than to remain silent and just allow yourself to continue to do an act, even where you know that you do not have the tools or the protection to do it. Anything goes wrong, they're throwing you under the bus.
There have been pockets of...
Our message is very, very clear that your eyes got to be open. And we are going to not only Guyanese all over, all across this country, must recognize that we are not in an ordinary time. This time is very serious. The survival and sustainability of this beautiful country calls on us to act now. And we who are sitting here must be so convicted in our hearts that if we don't act now, we would have failed many generations to come. We have recognized that the system is rotten. This government has absolutely no care and love for this country. Absolutely no care and love for its people. They're only interested in themselves, their friends, their families, their favorites. They're only interested in amassing wealth so that they can better their generations. But they care less about who dies in this country. They care less about who is able to survive in this country. And this is a mindset that we, the people in the APNU, have seen clearly that it is justified, that we are experiencing the most uncaring government in the history of this beautiful country. We are their own people, their own PPP people, stand up and say to them that y'all are far off from the political philosophy of Teddy Jagan. Far off. And I have been following very intently the comments made by the president as he was trying to advocate to our people that you must not remember or focus on the history. That is not only a dumb advice, that is clearly an intention to try to create a new culture and a new understanding where the people don't understand their own identity. It is an understanding and an appreciation of our history, which is going to call on us to recognize where we are, who we are, where we have come from, and where we are to go. And so that type of approach that Adi is trying to tell our people, don't focus on history, don't remember history. You don't remember history. That locked in your history is your identity. Locked in there. And you must understand the struggles. You must understand what our parents fought for. You must understand the struggles, and you must appreciate where we are and where we cannot return. That is what you have to do, where you cannot return. And the APNU is very cognizant that we will not return to the days of slavery. We will not return. This mental slavery that they're putting people in, where they are silencing people and people are frightened, are afraid to talk. You're enslaving your people without them even knowing that they're being enslaved, because they're making you dummies. You can't talk. They're gripping you by the level of power that they're exhibiting. They're gripping you with fear, that you must be fearful of them. That is the beginning. That is the beginning of your enslavement. Then they will walk on you, all over you. But you know what? This tragedy is a wake-up call. Is a wake-up call. And we are recognizing that they didn't even stop. They went even further to institute charges wrongfully against men who they very well know they are not the person responsible for it. So that's our call. That's our call. That's our posture. That's our posture as APNU.
Thank you very much, my
Fighting to save this country from one of the darkest periods that it has found itself in. And we got to fight the people who believe that they are masters and they have come to enslave us. We have to fight them. So if they think that this is going to be the greatest rebellion that they will ever see in their lifetime, and if they have read about it in the books, they are going to see it in the natural, because we will not allow our people to be enslaved again. We will not allow Guyanese to be treated as rags and unvalued. So that is our call. That is our posture, and I'm proud of it.
Dr. Dexter Todd, one of the new faces on our political landscape. Fighting words. Fighting words. I hope we're paying attention. Brother Paul, you're retired. You served your country honorably. Your country did not reward you with what you deserved. And here you are continuing to teach, continuing to witness for us. Every day, every week, every month, every year, we come face to face with these demons. And I'm sure there are times that you want to just roll over and go to sleep and read books about new policing methods and perhaps write your memoirs. But you come before this altar of resistance, day in, day out. You soldiered with your brother, Mr. Conway, who God called home, and you continue to do this. Why? Why?
Because, Doc, it is necessary. You know, I have been fortunate to have over the years exposed to a lot of, in terms of policing, a lot of training. I have a wealth of experience and so. And I have come to learn a long time now that when you share experience, you don't lose it. It's not something finite that you give up it and you lose it. As a matter of fact, the more you share, the more you gain. And therefore, I believe that I owe it to the Guyanese public, policemen in particular, to share my knowledge. And as I've said before, it is unfortunate, well, not necessarily unfortunate. The method might be unorthodox. And the reason why the method is unorthodox is because I am considered a person non grata. So whereas long ago, I would have been invited to do presentation and lecture to the officers and share my knowledge, my wealth of knowledge with them, that no longer happens formally. So I'm using my own forum to make sure that the knowledge is shared. And I can tell you this, the forum is growing and growing rapidly because people recognize, policemen in particular, recognize that they have something to learn, right? They have to learn. And I am not one of those who mislead people. I tell you them like it is. What is the law? What is the correct thing? Because unfortunately, in the few sessions that they have, the few formal sessions, some of these things are not taught to them. Some basic things that I thought would have been basic. People have said to me, well, you know, Mr. Slow, we were never taught that, and so on. So I'm on this mission to make sure that I impart the knowledge. Thankfully, the Lord has blessed me with health and strength, and my faculties are intact. So therefore, I'm going to use this opportunity to pass on and to continue to fight. We cannot give up. We cannot give up. If we love Guyana, we have to make sure that we continue the fight to make sure that, as the background says, and my thing there, speaking out, exposing corruption and incompetence, I will continue to do so. I am doing it for almost 5 years now, and I will continue to speak out to expose corruption and incompetence. The thing is now, it is becoming more and more demanding because of the levels of corruption, right? And the frequencies, almost every area, you see these things coming. And I'm gonna continue to talk about it. So I would normally tell the people I refer to as my students, I'm gonna be here. I'm in for the long haul. I'm in for the long haul, and be assured that I am going to continue the fight against corruption and incompetence. And that is because of my love for my country.
Love for country. Dr. Todd and Mr. Paul Slow, thank you all very much for coming onto this program tonight. There are days when you're down, but there are days when you look up and stand firm. If someone asks me, what did you do today, Dr. Hines? I'm very glad to have to say to them, I interviewed Paul Slow and Dexter Todd, and they have imparted knowledge and perspective that can only give us hope. This tragedy, as we have been saying, is a reflection of a larger tragedy, which is Guyana. And because we have given so much to this country, our ancestors came here, some against their will, some by accident, some semi-intentional, but we are here. And for all intents and purposes, we're not going back to Africa. We're not going back to India. We're not going back to Madeira. We are here, sharing this space with our indigenous sisters and brothers who have suffered the biggest loss here. But the rest of us who came to these shores on boats, on ships, we know the vulnerability of people who have to travel on ships. We know what it is for our bones and our bodies to dwell at the bottom of the ocean. And it is that brings us together at this moment. It tells us that we have to fight. As both Dexter and Paul have said, this is about fighting. Not fighting to defeat, some individual out there, but fighting to defeat a system and fighting to defeat those who are holding on to a system that is intended to turn us into beasts. But that will not happen. I'm glad you all came out in numbers tonight. And I keep speaking about the sense of duty that I see from this audience and audiences. Dr. Todd will speak on Mark Bishop, as he did a few nights ago. You speak on Mr. Last night you were on Conversation with Wilford Bork, and he will speak on Sherrod, and Paul will speak on his program, and he will speak on other programs. But you all will still come to listen to them on this program. You know why? Because you all understand something called perspective. We are a multi-perspective people. We know when we're on water, what to do. We know when we face fire, what to do. We know when we face judgment, what to do. We know when we face our gods, what to do. And we know what freedom demands from us. Go to sleep tonight, but get up tomorrow and do like the people of Denamstel did early this morning before the sun rose. Do what the Amerindian People's Association did in front of the office of the president. If you can show your face, show your faces. If you can show your disdain, show it. If you can show your anger, show it. We must not rest. Day after tomorrow, we will be observing emancipation of the African from bondage. But that observation has come to signify a larger emancipation. And this year, our emancipation observances cannot ignore this latest tragedy. Guyana has become a dangerous place, perhaps the most dangerous place in our Caribbean. And we have to bring it back to sanity. Good night. And thank you all so much for being with us. We come back tomorrow night for another edition of Politics 101, where we organize, we mobilize, and we witness for a better tomorrow.